Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Contact Lost, the Polish podcast about Warhammer 40k, competitive Warhammer 40k, both in Poland and abroad. Listen, today's episode is something special because, well, I want to start it with a bang. I want to start it with something really cool, actually with an announcement, because I don't know if you've managed to figure out or not already. I might have mentioned it in the previous episodes, or maybe Joker has, but Contact Lost, our podcast, ourselves, we will be doing the media coverage of the London Grand Tournament. So we are coming to the UK at the end of September. Myself, Joker, and our freshest addition, but also the most tech-savvy addition to the team, Vitalis, we are coming. We are going to do post-game interviews, end-of-day studio summaries of what happened, what went down at the event. And this will be an opportunity for you to come and say hi, or come and punch us in the face if you don't like our content. That's also an option. But we will be there, and we will be there for 4 days. So there will be plenty of time to meet, to drink together, to talk about anything. Please make sure that you reserve some time and come to the event. And now this very episode is the first one that we are doing. I am doing this today because Joker couldn't make it. Joker will be recording one tomorrow probably. But this one is the first in the series that we will call Road to the LGT, where me and Joker, we will be talking to 40k celebrities and 40k officials that we know that will appear at the event. And we're just going to hype up the event a little bit. So without further ado, you could see the title, and you can see now who is sitting here with me. The man doesn't need any introductions, but still, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Mani Cheema.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Manny. Thanks for agreeing to do this. Thanks for being my first victim, so to say,
First victim.
in the series. I have just a bunch of questions, as usual. But to those people who somehow still might not know who you are, would you mind doing a little introduction and telling us who you are, what have you been doing recently, hobby-wise, any of your successes? The floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Tom said celebrity of 40k. Now, that's very kind, being very kind. I dabble. I'm a dabbler of 40k. So I've been playing the game roughly 10 years exactly now. I started playing when I was 17, and now I'm 27. So I've been playing the game for 10 years. I've only played competitive, funnily enough. I started when I was 17. I was brought in by a group of friends because they were going to an event. So I just started from there, went to an event with them, got my butt kicked in every game, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I met 5 new people. We went out in the evening. On Saturday, we had some drinks, got along with loads of different people. And that's it. It was all the meeting new people and having a great time with the friends that I went with. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool, actually. Maybe I'll actually learn how to play the game and then start going more with my friends. And it just kind of started from there. It just went from there. And I really, pretty much everything that I do, I have like a very competitive side to me. So I like to try and do as well as I can. So because of that, I just tried my hardest, went to as many events as I possibly could. And then a year after starting to play the game, I started playing for Team England. And I have played for Team England ever since. So the last 7 events, I believe, I've been representing Team England at the ETC, now the WTC, which is a great honor. We won it last year, or the last time it happened. So we were the reigning champions going into this, which of course is a great achievement. I have a channel called Glasshammer Gaming where I do loads of different YouTube videos on basically competitive based 40k, all about the new rules. We do battle reports with a more competitive mindset. So even though sometimes we play more fluffier armies that have been voted on by the audience on what they want us to play, we always play with a competitive mindset to show people how they can get the most out of their miniature collection, what units they have. And also I I like to play singles 40k a lot as well, and I finished the last season #1 in Europe and #2 in the world. So yeah, really, really proud moments that I've had in 40k, and I'm really happy with them, and hopefully many more to go. Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Absolutely. The LGT might be just another one to go down in the books with your name at the top. We'll see. Fingers crossed. But I'll be saying that. I need to be fair, so I'll be saying that to all our guests. So you know,
I came very close 2 years ago. So at the last one, I played Alex Petford, like round 4, going into it, and we were the top 2 scoring players at the event. But we both had AdMech. We both had like 6 planes each. And it was like, who goes first and does their shooting work? Alex managed to go first, played it very well, targeted all the correct units like he should, and he managed to get the win on me. So I was knocked out like round 4 last year, but the year before I went all the way to the top table in the final. I won the final game, but the players on table 2 leapfrogged us, and they jumped above me and my opponent on the top table. So I came second 2 years ago. So that was the highest I've ever finished at the LGT. So going to be tough to top it, but we're going to try.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement, so we shall see. So, you know, as I said, I have a list of questions that I wanted to ask, and I think the next one just comes in naturally, so I'm going to skip the list and just go with it. So why is the LGT like an event that is worth going to? Could you, you know, maybe hype it up?
Reasons. Yeah, multiple reasons. I think the first one is, well, for me anyway, it's the first one after like all the lockdown restrictions have opened like properly. So it's going to be the first one where you get to see everybody who plays in the country, essentially. Pretty much all competitive players who play in the country will be attending this event. And that's awesome. Like, one of the things I like the most about 40k is the social aspect of it. So that's why I really, really loved going to the WTC this year, because the event hadn't happened for the previous 2 years. So there were a lot of friends from other countries that I hadn't seen in like 3 years. And it was great to, you know, meet up with them. And the social aspect of any event is pretty much just as important as the playing of the event. So I think that about the LGT is going to be great, that pretty much everybody is going to be there. So just mingling with people and getting along with people and, you know, having a couple of drinks with your friends is going to be great at the LGT. But also playing wise as well, I believe it's going to be the highest pointed event of the year, essentially. I think whoever wins may get more points than LVO, just because this is a 10-round event, whereas LVO is like a 9-round event with a shadow round in there. This is a proper 10-round event that Zach's running here. So, and it's 800 players from what I remember.
Oh, I have an update on that. So as of last week, I spoke to Zach. He told me he has 920 people who have already like signed up and paid, and the capacity of the event is 1,200. So, and it's, you know, it's still ticking. So as of today, it might be something different, but it was 920 last week. So when you're talking social, I mean, you know, like proper opportunity to meet people.
Almost like perfect, because this year, guys, I'm not sure if you're aware, but every undefeated player at the end of round 5 will get to continue. Like, you will be the only undefeated player if you win this event. So as Tom says there, 920, that's insane. But 920 players, if it is 920 players so far, even if it goes into the end at 920 players on the weekend, 920 after 5 rounds, that takes you to 460, 230, 115 winners, and then like basically 60 winners, 30 winners. So after 5 rounds, you will still have roughly 30 undefeated players. And there are 5 additional rounds after that. And if you just cut down from 30, if you round up to 32 to make it even, you'll have 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. So after the 10 rounds, there will only be 1 undefeated. And that is true for another, like, up to another, like, 60 people. So even if we get another 60 people sign up, there will still only be 1 undefeated player. And that's what I love about it. I think that's a big attraction in itself as well, because quite a few of these events in the past have just been okay, you play 5 rounds. There are 20 undefeated players. Everybody go home. Only 4 players are going through, and you're like, But now, like that was obviously venue restrictions, time restrictions, all of this kind of stuff. But now I think Zach's done a fantastic job of getting the event to where it is, and now he's able to, make it go the whole way to one winner, 10 rounds. So yeah, being 920 players and then 10 rounds, I believe the winner of this event may get more points than the winner of LVO this year, which is that's insane. That's like a massive reason to come to the event, and I believe that's why maybe a few of the Americans may be coming over for this as well. There's a lot of points at stake.
Yeah, so it is quite outstanding, and from what I know, there is a bunch of people from abroad that are coming that I will try to reach out and do interviews with as well. So if you want that to happen, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment the content that that you're watching or listening to, so that we can reach broader audiences. But absolutely, I have a list of names already that I will be trying to reach out to. So we will try to bring those personalities closer to you as well, so you know who potentially you could meet at the event if you're playing. So, yeah, exactly. So, Manny, I need to ask this question. As you said, the event starts on Friday. There is Saturday, Sunday of playing, then potentially also Monday of playing. How do you prepare for an event like that? So for 4 days of just focusing on the game, non-stop almost. How do you prepare in terms of like tactics, strategies, and so on, but also in terms of like sheer resiliency and strength to survive this?
It is very hard to plan for something like this, because there are so many players going. There's the factions that are going to be represented are going to be far and wide, and there's going to be like big proportions of people playing some factions. So you have to, one thing is the meta. You have to bear in mind the meta when you go into an event like this. You have to go, well, right now, Tyranids, Necrons, and Sisters. Tyranids, Necrons, and Sisters, plus Imperial Knights and Tau. These are like the 5 pretty much top factions right now in terms of, representation and where they finished, results and representation. Those are basically the top 5 armies. So you need to be going into the event with the mindset of, I either need to play one of these 5 and tweak it so that it can play the other 4, or I need to take something totally different that can play all 5. Now that's a hard task, because as well, for example, imagine you are a Tau player and you are trying to tech for Knights, because you're like, Knights are one of the other top 5. So I need to put in a fair amount of anti-tank so that I can deal with somebody who brings 12 baby Knights, for example. And you go, okay, awesome, I've done that. Now it looks like I've got enough firepower for that. And then you go, right, but there's also Sisters coming who have 80 to 90 models in power armor.
Yeah, almost a horde.
I now need different weapons than what deal with the Knights. And you kind of get into this dilemma of how do you split your force depending on what needs this amount of firepower, what needs that amount of firepower, what needs different profiles. Do you need combat in your list? How much combat do you need? Counterpunch, playing to the terrain. I think that's also a really, really big factor of events. I think probably the biggest factor in events in the UK right now is the type of terrain you're playing. So the LGT terrain is basically the most common, because Zach runs all of the super majors in the UK pretty much, and this is what he plays. So there's like 3 main types of terrain in the UK, and it's like the Glasshammer terrain, the Vanguard Tactics style terrain, which is used down in Bournemouth at the Bournemouth Brawl and stuff like that, and then also the LGT UK TC pack terrain. So these are like the 3 that are used the most, and Zach runs all the big events. So if you go to the super majors throughout the year, you can see that terrain plays in a very different way. Some armies, for example, Sisters, which are one of the armies that I've been playing a lot, and I took to the WTC, and it was great. It performed fantastically. Here, I don't believe Sisters are as good as a lot of the other armies in the top 5, because the boards aren't great for that specific faction and the units which are good from that faction. So there's a lot of things to consider when you do it, and also the longevity, like playing through a possibility of 14 rounds. If you make both the final of the Invitational and the final of the singles, that player will have played 14 games of 40k in 4 days. Now, the only thing I've ever done which is similar to this is the WTC, the last one, when it was the final time, it was the ETC. I decided, and it was one of the worst decisions that I've ever made in 40k. So that year I was playing the 150 guardsmen with 3 wyverns. So I had a lot of models and a lot of dice to roll for shooting, and a lot of movement to do as well. So it was a grueling army to play. And I decided, very stupidly, may I add, to play in the singles event and the teams event.
I saw that coming.
Yeah, so that was played over 5 days. I played 12 games of Warhammer 40k over 5 days. And because that's team-based as well, the pressure is so much more, because not only is it, you know, your own result that matters, you're representing a team. So anything that you do or any mistakes that you make can reflect badly on the team. The team could lose a round because you made one poor mistake. So the pressure is a lot higher in that environment. So I feel like I am ready going into this pretty much. Like I've done it before. So I think that's something that I personally am prepared for. But it is very hard, especially if it's your first time, guys. I would say drink loads of water. Like, you know, have loads of water with you, bottles of water. Like, man, I've done this before, and I've tried to play like 7-8 rounds where I've just been drinking beer, and oh man, you get thirsty, you start getting thirsty, and
it bites you in the ass.
It's not great. It bites you in the ass. Yeah. So I would say drink loads of water, guys. Like anybody who's attending, if it's your first time especially as well, drink loads of water, stay cool, and just, you know,
enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. So an interesting thing that you mentioned, but it's actually a very, I would say, matter-of-fact observation. There are about 5 armies in the top right now that can play
Pretty
competitively. You could observe that at the WTC, that there were a lot of factions that were, you know, played by many people over there. Would you say that the meta right now is in a healthy state before the LGT? You know, is there balance finally?
Okay, so I think it's pretty hard to say. So you got to look at it in 2 ways. The first way is, no, it's not totally balanced. No, it's not totally balanced, but you will never have total balance. So that's the other way of looking at it, because there will always be power creep. There will always be new books. There will always be updates and things like that. So you won't ever have a completely balanced game. That won't happen, I don't think.
But, with so many factions as well.
Yes, but about the game being in a healthy state, we're very close, is my honest opinion. I don't think we're quite there, because these 5 at the top are quite a bit clear at the top. These 5 factions over everybody else. And you might think, well, it is 5 factions though, which is true. I totally agree with, because in the past sometimes we've had like 1 faction and they're just clearly above the rest. And then sometimes we've had 2 factions head and shoulders above the rest. Here at least we have 5, because, you know, like Tyranids might seem like the standout option. Yes, but skilled players on armies such as Sisters and Necrons have beaten very good players playing Leviathan Tyranids as well. So there's the top 5 there. There's a lot of variation between who plays the army, what style of build they have for that faction,
what composition they are bringing.
Yeah. So I think any one of those 5 could beat any other one of those 5s. That's pretty healthy. But in my personal opinion, I feel like if Tyranids were to get a slight points increase, only on some things, not on very many things. Like for example, I was listening to the Fireside podcast done by Vic Vic VJ and David Gaylord, and I thought it was great. Their first episode, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, guys. If you haven't listened to it, I'd recommend going and listening to it. It's called
Absolutely.
Fireside, and it's actually very, very good. It's only their pilot episode, but I really enjoyed it. And Vic and David are very, very good players. They know what they're talking about, and it was David Gaylord that was actually he was mentioning, like, you know, the state of the game, and he said that warriors he doesn't believe should get an increase, but the loadouts on them should. And I totally agree with him. I think that's a fantastic change observation that he's made there. I think that's it's a really good point.
A very honest one.
Yeah, like actually the normal points of a base warrior don't need to go up. They don't, but the options do. For example, the double bone swords is just the standout option. It's just head and shoulders above the rest. But when you make it the same points cost as all the other options, you will never see the other options.
And
now,
if a pair of a no-brainer.
Exactly, of course. Now, if the best gun, like the Death Spitter, was like 2 or 3 points a model, you'd think twice by overtaking it over a Devourer or something like that. But then also the double bone swords, if the double bone swords were like 4 points, but like double siding talons was 0, then you'd actually have a choice. You know, what do I want to take? What does a specific roll against different things? You might have one unit in your army with sizing talons, one unit slightly more expensive with bone swords, because they're meant for different functions. Whereas at the moment, there's no variance. So I totally agree with him on that. So I think there's a couple of points increases need to be looked at in Tyranids, but also if the Necrons and Sisters secondaries are toned down ever so slightly, then I believe we will have a very healthy meta, because then I believe there are a lot of other factions who are almost as good hitting power wise, but just lag behind on the secondaries by a fair amount. Now,
and
if
then
you
they
just
would be able to put up a fight. Yeah, sorry.
Yes. So if you adjust the 2 secondaries on those factions, Necrons and Sisters, increase the points of Tyranids slightly on certain things, all of a sudden, I think the meta is very healthy. So we are almost there, and there could still be a balanced update in the next like 5 or 6 days, which actually would count for the LGT if I'm correct. And then maybe we will have a completely healthy meta going in. Wouldn't that just be like great, right? Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, it would be fantastic, and I'm really, really keen to see what's going to happen and what people are going to bring. Not only because the WTC was sort of indicative towards what is playing and what is not playing exactly, but the WTC, for example, didn't allow for the Chaos Space Marines because of the cutoff date. We didn't see the demons that have now come out and released, and there are skilled players who have dreamt of the new book and probably are now going to jump on that and see how that plays. Swarming masses of demons are also an option. I had the opportunity to play against a Chaos Demon army, and even though the book doesn't seem like there is a lot of variety, they actually have an enormous amount of tricks up their sleeves. So it will be extremely interesting to see what happens at the event, which brings me to my next question. People who follow the scene know more or less what armies you are into. But for the people who don't follow, what is your, if they want to prepare themselves for the event and the possibility or the eventuality of meeting you on one of the tables, what is your play style? What do you usually look for in armies? I'm not asking which army you are bringing unless you want to share, but what's your play style? What do you usually go for?
So pretty much my play style is everything. Like I pretty much most of the time when I go to an event, because we do battle reports as well. So like on battle reports, I will play anything. Sometimes I'll just play a Blood Angel army with Death Company intercessors. They're no good. They don't do any secondaries. They're not the best choice in the book. But like I'll just play things that I think are fun and I enjoy it. So and my playstyle is pretty much everything from that aspect. But when I go to events, I will always play one of the best factions. I like to play that way. I always like to compete going to a singles event, so I will always play one of the top factions in my eyes. And then I will find the best units or best combos in that book and exploit them. Like, definitely exploit them. That's the way I like to play. Now, I have two nicknames on the scene, and they both rhyme. One is Jammy Manny, because boy do I get lucky on more occasions than I can remember, way more occasions than I should, and a lot of people have stories out there about Jammy Manny, but also Spammy Manny, because I do like to find the best unit in the book and run as many of that unit as I possibly can. I've done that at quite a lot of different events in the past, some to great success and some to okay success, and they've not been as good. But yeah, I do like to play like that exploitive, style of 40k as well. And I have no problem playing hordes and things like that. I have no problem playing very elite armies. I've played knights in the past. I've also played like 250 termagants. So there's like loads of different styles of play that I have played. And in like in response to style, there's like defensive and aggressive play. I'm definitely an aggressive player. When it comes to play style, I'm a lot less defensive and a lot more aggressive with the style that I like to play on the table. So I like to cover as much ground as I possibly can and hit as hard as I can early on. I think that helps a lot when you're trying to score, because not only are you scoring your points early on, when you're hitting your opponent quite hard and keeping them pinned in, it's hard for them to score their points. So that's the way that I like to play most of the time.
Right. So I've been following you or your achievements for quite some time now, and I did see that trend that there was a list with I think 17 or maybe 18 Hive Guard. There was a list with Harlequin list. There was the 150 Rat list.
The buggies. There was the 18 buggies.
Exactly. So and planes and so on. So it does seem like it is your playstyle. Does it have any disadvantages, and how do you overcome them? Like, do you account for them on the list building stage, or do you just go YOLO, whatever comes, and I'll deal with it when it happens?
Yeah, so there are ways that you can. So, for example, with the buggy list, you look at the buggy list, and there are like 3 or 4 buggies which are quite decent. But I wanted to run 18 of them because I saw it and I was like, wow, that's a lot of armor. People are going to struggle to get through that amount of armor, but some armies can do it. So the way I counter it was I went, right, the Rooker Truck Squig Buggy and the Megatrack Scrapjet are the 2 that put out the most output as well. There are other, 1 or 2 other good buggies as well, but these are the 2 that put the most output out, the most damage. So I went, right, well, those armies that could potentially wipe this army out, how are they going to fare when they are also being shot back by the amount of firepower in my army? So right. Turn 1, they might be able to kill 4 buggies. But after they've been shot back with 14 and lost like 500, 600 points of their own army, how many can they realistically kill the next turn then? And then the next turn, and then the next turn. So you kind of offset it with the damage that you can cause, or when you're playing these kind of styles, like the Racks, for example, that I was playing, they are just insane primary denial. They deny people's primaries on a crazy level, and because they are denying primaries on a crazy level, people are fighting to get their own objectives back, meaning that you most likely max your primaries. So you can max your primaries and deny their primaries and keep them as low as like 10 to 20 points in a lot of missions, so you're already like 25 ahead, and then you go, right, my secondaries, I'll just take ones that are done in passing and I'll play this game. I will sacrifice every rack on the board. I will just lose 180 racks, not a problem, and I will spend the time denying all the primaries. So I played that at the Unconquerable GT actually, and time wasn't that much of an issue. I pretty much made it to turn 5 in every single game, except for one where I ran out of my time at the end of my turn 4, which was worth it because I spent all of my time in turn 4 positioning the racks which I had remaining, because there weren't very many, but positioning the racks I had remaining to concentrate on giving my opponent 0 primaries at the start of turn 5. And I was like, okay, that is worth giving up my turn 5 if I can ensure my opponent doesn't get any points in their turn 5. So I placed myself and went, okay, That's my time done at the end of turn 4. Now it's the start of your turn 5. Of course, you can do whatever you want, but at the start of your turn, the primary is 0. So I thought that was, it was worth me sacrificing getting my last 5 primaries in my turn 5 by just denying like 12 of my opponents. So I concentrated a lot more on that. So when you run these like really skewed armies, you sometimes need to find a way that you can kind of go, right, well, the buggies, they need to not be tabled, so what they need to do is kill a lot of the enemy's army at the same time. The racks, they will be tabled, but they can move very quickly across the board, so I need to play in a way that I just deny a lot of points before I get tabled, because the racks do get tabled quite a lot of the time. So there are those kind of things when you have to consider when you play these kind of skew armies.
Okay, all right. So at the LGT, there are going to be 2 events, right? It's well, more than 2, because there are like different games as well and so on. But for 40K specifically, there is the Invitational, and then there is the tournament, the main event. So are you going to both? And can you give us any maybe hints as to what you might be bringing?
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to throw it out there because why not, right? Why not? Let's just throw it out there and be brave and see what everyone else can do. So I'm going to both events. I'm going to the Invitational and the main event. Now, to the Invitational, I'm bringing the racks. So we call it Get Racked.
Reliable.
We call it Get Racked over here. That's what I like to call it. That's what that's what it started to be known as by a lot of people. Now it's called the Get Racked list. And I've just made a few tweaks to the one that I took to Unconquerable a week ago. So last weekend, I went to the Unconquerable GT and I took the Get Racked list, and I actually managed to win the event, which I was very proud of, because Drukhari are not a faction which is one of the top 5. I don't believe anyway, not by a fair amount in my opinion. So for the final to have been Drukhari versus Drukhari was great to see. It was great to witness that was a thing. But also I did play against a lot of top factions. I played against Necrons. It was a very good army as well. I played against Liam Hackett type army from Team Australia, and he was like the high scoring player at WTC. So I played against that style of Necrons. I played against Leviathan Nids, Tau. I played against Brian Seep, the Scotland Tau player. Imperial Knights. So I played 4 of the top 5 armies. The only one I didn't get the chance to play was Sisters. And then, of course, in the final, it was a Drukhari off. So I was very happy with the list, the fact that it played 4 of the top 5 factions and actually managed to come out on top in a couple of those games. So I'm really happy with that. So I've kind of gone for the second option. Like before, I was saying you need to either take one of the 5 armies and tool it to be able to deal with the rest, or come up with something that can potentially give those 5 armies a good game. So I've kind of gone away and gone the racks. The racks, they can come back in and give these things a good game now. So I've got my racks off the shelf, blown the dust off them because there was so much dust, and I've bought them back, but in a totally different way. So I did win the Nottingham Super Major at the start of the year in January with the rack spam, the Get Racked list, but now it's completely changed. Like it's changed in a very, very big. It's still 175 racks. That's not changed, but the way that they play, the way that they're kitted out, tooled out, and the faction that I'm running them in, as in like the Army of Renown, the coteries of the Homunculus, rather than just standard Drukhari, is a lot better in my opinion.
Right.
So I'm bringing that to the Invitational event. I don't know what I'm going to bring to the main event yet, because like it has crossed my mind, guys, of just going, screw it, I'll take the Get Racked list. I'll take the Get Racked list to the main event as well. Now the difference is I played the Unconquerable, and that was 5 games. The Invitational can be a maximum of 4 games. It may only be 2 or 3 games. I might get knocked out round 1. You never know. But so that's between 1 to 4 games, which is manageable. But if I take this to the main event, and this also has to be considered, I'm going to try to do as well as I can. So the aim is to try to win the event. It might not happen. I might not even get close, but that's the aim. That's what I'm going in aiming for. Now, if I somehow make the finals of the Invitational and also then make the finals of the main event, I'll be playing a total of 14 games. Now, doing that with a
Yeah.
180 model army is not something that I want to do. So I don't think I'm going to be taking the racks to the main event. They're great for the Invitational. I'm really happy I'm playing them at the Invitational because I'm really happy that the list works again now in the current meta. Whereas, like, I spent so much money on these well, Glasshammer spent so much money on these racks because all of my racks are GW official. And they come in boxes of 5 and they're direct order only. So we spent a lot of money on getting these racks and they were great. And now they've not been good for a long time. And now they're great again. So I'm really happy I'm using them. That's why I'm bringing them to the Invitational. I believe that they can give the other top 5 armies in the meta a good game. But then for the main event, I'm really thinking about jumping on the Nid bandwagon, Like,
counts as no surprise. Just please don't bring 36 warriors. That's just, the list is so.
Everybody that knows me, literally everybody that knows me knows that I love Tyranids, but they know that I love Kraken Gene Stealer Tyranids. Like, that's the way I like to play. I like to run loads of Gene Stealers and those kind of like the baby Gribblies. I like baby Gribblies. So the style of Tyranids at the moment is not really my style. It's not really the models and units that I like. I like more like loads of Gaunts and Gene Stealers. That's the way I like to play Tyranids. So this is totally different, but they seem like the strongest. And when you can build them in a way that they can deal with pretty much all of the other top 5, and then it's just about, do you get unlucky in a game? Do you make a mistake in a game? Will you hit a mirror match early on? Those are the only questions that really come to mind. But you're like, that can be true of any of the factions. So I have to say, Nids are looking like maybe the pick for me for the main event. And also, it will change things, right? Like, playing 4 games maximum with the rack spam, but then being able to play up to 10 with the Leviathan, which is a lot less intensive. It's a lot less models. It's a little bit easier to play and quicker to play than the racks. So that's something that's on my mind as well. Like, if I go the whole way and play all these games, I want to be playing with an army that I can, give my full concentration to. And the racks is very hard to do that for that many games. So it looks like racks for the Invitational and then maybe Tyranids for the main event.
Yeah, although, again, this could change. We'll see. You could have a sudden change of heart. So whoever is listening, be wary that it could happen.
Yes.
So, Manny, one of probably last questions, but still something that I want to use as maybe a measuring gauge for all the people that I will be interviewing. In your interview with Steve Joel, that I strongly recommend that everyone goes and watches as well. I think on Frontline Gaming or Art of War, maybe. I can't remember which one that was, but I remember that you mentioned there that you are just and those might not be an exact quote, but that you basically are a 40K prodigy. Basically, you are talented to do what you do, and it comes to you naturally. But still, how much time and effort, let's say a week, do you put into this hobby? How much do you practice? How many reps do you get before an event to feel confident with a list? Do you just pick up a list and boom, you do well? Or does that actually take some...
So to be fair, a lot of it does come to me naturally. Like I can, a lot of the time I can put together a list and just see how it's going to work. And then when I put it down on the table, I can just put those elements into play that I've thought about in my head on how I think it should work. And a lot of the time it does pan out and work that way. For example, like Dan, also from Glasshammer, Dan's one of my best mates. And so he plays in a style where like he's playing Eldar right now. And he plays like every game with Eldar, practices as much as he can with Eldar, and he'll take Eldar to multiple events. He has taken them to multiple events, and he's definitely going to be taking them to the LGT. Like, that's his play style. He takes one army and plays with them loads, so he can learn absolutely everything about it. I get bored very quickly. That's a downside. I get bored very quickly. So you can look at a lot of my events throughout this year, and pretty much every event I go to, the army will never last more than like 2, maybe 3 events. So I play like 3 events, and then I play a different army for 2 events, then a different one for 2 events, then a different one for 1 event. And it's literally my whole time I've played 40K is like that. I enjoy playing different armies. I really do. So it comes to me naturally, but also a big thing to say about it. So like, the content that I produce for 40k, that's my full-time job. So my full-time job, like all my time is dedicated to Warhammer 40k. So I do play a lot of games. We record one battle report every week, and I like to play coaching games with people, practice games, but then also, like, for example, the battle report. The battle report that we like filmed last week was like Drukhari. Skari came on the channel from Scardcast, and he played Drukhari, and I was playing Genestealer Cult. Now, even though Genestealer Cult is nothing like the Rax or the Tyranids that I'm planning on bringing to the LGT, even though the Genestealer Cult are nothing like them, I'm still playing the game. I'm getting the reps in, you know, like I might, you know, like be better at playing primaries and secondaries because I've done it a lot more. You know, if those kind of things do matter. Like, even though I'm not playing the army that I'm taking to events, just playing the game and getting as many reps with the game and having a deeper understanding for the game goes a long way. But then also, yeah, I do play a lot of practice games as well. But like the Rax, for example, like I put that list together and then submitted it for the Invitational, and then I converted all the Ossifactor guns onto the models and stuff, just about got them painted, and turned up on the day, and that was my first game with them. I do that quite a lot as well. Like, for example, the buggies. The first event I took the buggies to, I turned up and I was like, David, how much time do you have? And he was like, why? And I was like, I really want to take the buggies to this event. And he was like, okay, when is the event? And I was like, this weekend in 4 days? And he was like, 4 days? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I really want to take 18 buggies. And he was like, how many do you have? And I was like, I have 18. And he was like, okay, so just painting them. And I was like, no, I have 18, but 2 are built. Like, and David was like, oh, for God's sake. He was like, you're an ass, Manny. You're an ass. But he did it. He's an absolute machine. He built all 18 buggies and painted them all in like 3 days. But because they were being built and painted, I didn't have a single practice game with those either. I just turned up on the day and just rolled dice.
It is comforting to know that behind every 40k hero or celebrity, there is this unsung hero, this sidekick who helps. And
David
you're not doing everything on your own.
Yeah, he's fantastic, man. He's like my rock, man. If I need things built and painted, David's the man. All of you know I am terrible at building and painting models. Oh my God. You don't want to look at my paint schemes, man. My painting is shockingly bad.
But David is awesome.
David's
I've seen
incredible.
him play. I've seen him on the battle report. So again, guys, if you have the opportunity, go and check out Glasshammer Gaming, because you get to see not only Manny but also other Dan and David, fantastic players, very great blokes to just watch and enjoy. So yeah, absolutely give them a watch. Manny, I will be bringing this slowly to an end because also, you know, out of respect for your time. You already mentioned, you know, drinking water as one of the pieces of advice for people attending the event. Do you have anything else, either about the playing the games themselves or the logistics around the event? Anything that might be of help to people going there, for example, for the first time and not realizing, you know, the gravitas of the event, the amount of people, anything that comes to your mind that could be helpful?
Yeah, so I think number one, use a chess clock. Using a chess clock is very big, I think, in competitive games right now, because for example, I like to use a chess clock, and like I'm taking racks to the Invitational at least, and I played them at the Unconquerable GT, and I played every game on the clock because it's for 2 reasons. Like, you're not there to screw your opponent over on the clock. That's not what the clock is there for. The clock is to ensure that both players get like an equal amount of time to do the things that they need to do to play the game. Basically, you should have like an equal share in what goes on in the game. Now, the racks especially, I like to use the clock in that instance to ensure that my opponent is getting the right amount of time. Because it's very easy when you're playing an army like mine with 180 models that it could take you too long to move it, and then you decide to charge with the entire army in a turn, and you could easily use like 45 minutes in one turn out of your hour and a half, which is half your time you could use in like turn 2 maybe. Now, you know, if you don't use that chess clock, you could be using 2 hours of the round, while as your opponent only uses one, and that feels a little unfair, like your opponent doesn't get the right amount of time. So I like to use the chess clock, not only to ensure that, you know, like I'm getting the right amount of time, but also to ensure that if I'm playing a horde or something like that and have a lot of rolls to make, my opponent gets the right amount of time, because that's very important as well. And like I mentioned, like against Julio, I timed out in round 4, but he still got his round 5 because he still had 3 minutes left on the clock, whereas I was out of time. So, you know, that's a fair way to do it. And we get there and we go, right, now we know I can't do any more actions in my turn 5, but you can still do your turn 5 because you have 3 minutes left. And that's very important. I think it's a very fair way of playing the game. And I think that's important. Another thing is, like terrain, guys, because time is so important, if you get to your table like 15 minutes early, I would recommend just laying out the mission, like the objective markers on the board, and also deploying the terrain in the way that it should be for that map, because it means when you come to the time of playing the round, you can both just start deploying your army and then playing the game. So you have your full 3 hours to play the game, rather than coming to the table and going, oh wow, none of us have sorted out, none of us laid the objectives out, none of us laid the terrain out. Now let's spend 15 minutes laying all that out and talking through secondaries and stuff, and then we've lost like 7-8 minutes each of our time, and you know, it can get really tight on the clock then. So I would recommend setting the table out beforehand. Of course, drink lots of water. That's like another great thing. And number 4, just relax and have fun. Relax and have fun. It's a game of toy soldiers at the end of the day, and I like to say this to like so many people as well. Like, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. Of course, this is a cool way of explaining it. For example, like, we're all there to try and win our games, because it's a game. That's the point of the game, is to play your best to try and win with what you have. That's the aim of playing Warhammer 40k competitively. However, it's a game. It's a game of toy soldiers. So if you're all there to try and win, but if you're not having a laugh with your opponent while you're trying to win the game, why play toy soldiers, right? Like, it's a game of toy soldiers. So that's the main thing, guys. Just have fun. Drink lots of water, have fun. Those are the 2 main things.
Right. I don't think I could have said it better. So just to paraphrase, first of all, have fun. Second of all, discipline. Probably, if you want to play like competitively, and discipline about time, discipline about, as you said, terrain on the table. Use your time smartly. Probably that's the summary. Okay, everyone. I think we are done here. I think this was amazing. Thank you, Manny, for joining me.
No problem.
For being
Thank you very much
open.
for having me on the channel. This is it's fantastic. Thank you.
Always. I mean, you've given, some people charge for the kind of advice that you've given here, but here they are getting it for free. So again, chapeau bas, and thank you for that. And to everyone listening, we will continue with the series in future episodes. There are going to be plenty as build up for the LGT. If you don't know or haven't heard about the LGT somehow, do Google it. Do look up London Grand Tournament or Warhammer tournaments on Facebook, because that's those are the people who are organizing the event. I think there might be still time to sign up and send in your list and plan for it accordingly. So do give it a look. Do give Glasshammer Gaming a look, because your Manny is from there, and they put out a ton of amazing content. And if you like what we do, also like, subscribe, and comment, so that our ranges could grow and we could reach broader audiences. Thank you one more time, Manny. Thank you everyone for listening, and until next time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.